So before we begin learning science, we need to go over our safety training. And this version of Whmis came out in 2015. So there was an older version that preceded this. There are 4 parts to Whmis: pictograms, labels, safety data sheets, and education and training. And it doesn't matter if you're taking a science class, a tech class, or have a part-time job, you will always have to do Whmis, and this is an annual thing. So just because you've done an extensive Whmis training one year doesn't mean you're good, because there's always changes and updates, or maybe you missed something. So let's start. So the first thing with Whmis is the right to know. Okay, you have the right to know, what chemicals or dangers or hazards that you're exposing yourself to. And this is very, very important. I'm so old, I remember a time before Whmis, and I was a lifeguard at the pool, and we used these chemicals that were actually quite toxic and dangerous to do the basic cleaning. We had to squirt them on the floor, and then again, because we were like swimming instructors, we were just in bathing suits and bare feet, we'd walk right through it and then scrub it down and hose it away. Okay, that was dangerous and that was wrong. Once Whmis came out, they changed that, because when we realized, like, well, if this is so dangerous, I need rubber boots on, why am I using it? So you have the right to know, and that's very, very important. And with that right to know, if you have any job or even at school, things should be labeled. So it's not just, here, use this random bottle. Okay, you need to know what's in that bottle. How does it affect me? Am I using the right protective gear? So it says, how does this chemical enter my system? Sometimes you could just breathe it in. Okay, sometimes it absorbs through your skin or your eyes. So you need to know, okay, well, how does this chemical come into my system? How do I protect myself from this Whmis controlled product? So all products in Canada need to have a Whmis label on it. Even when you buy things at the grocery store, they have labels. And when I mean grocery store, I mean if you had to buy Drano, for instance, it's a chemical, it needs to have this information on it. Hazardous information says knowing the precautions to take when exposed to Whmis controlled products. So again, the example, when I was a lifeguard, we were using this product, and because of the nature of the job, we were just walking through it with our bare feet. And then when Whmis came out, okay, all of a sudden they're like, oh, no, you need to have like big rubber boots on. You had to have a gown. You have to have big rubber gloves on. Okay, so you need to know, if I'm using this product, how do I protect myself? And a big thing with Whmis is, do not be afraid to ask questions. What PPE do I require to work safely with this product? So it doesn't matter what your job is, you need to advocate for yourself and ask questions. Another big part of Whmis is the right to refuse unsafe work. Okay, it is your life. Okay, you don't want to be inhaling something bad like asbestos and damaging your lungs for life, and then having to deal with that, in the next 10, 20, 30 years. Okay, you have the right to refuse, and you should take your health very, very seriously and protect it. And if you don't feel safe, you say, sorry, I don't feel safe. And part of that could be also no prior training. Like, I haven't been trained properly to deal with this. So that's a big part too. So if you have a job in the workforce, make sure like you get the training and you have the proper PPE. So we said right off the bat that part of Whmis is understanding the symbols, and these have been revamped not back in 2015. So they're still pretty obvious. They simplify them in my mind. When I look at this very first one here, I see a fire. So it's flame. It's for fire hazard. So this thing, if you see it on a bottle or a product, means it's very flammable. It could actually burst out in flame. This one is a flame, and I see a circle. So it's actually called flame over circle. The circle stands for the letter O, which when we look at the periodic table, that means oxygen. So it's an oxidizing hazard. Okay, in order for a flame to burn, it needs oxygen. So if something produces oxygen, it will burn much, much strongly. So when you see that O, the flame over circle, it means, okay, because it's producing oxygen, it's going to feed the fire even more. For instance, when we send rockets up into outer space, once you get past Earth's atmosphere, there's no more oxygen up there, so they need to bring along oxidizers so the rocket fuel can actually be used properly. Next one looks like a little gas cylinder, so it's gases under pressure, and lots of things. Any spray can you have um, is a bottle under pressure. Now, if you put this in a fire, it will explode. Very, very dangerous. This next one here, it shows a little test tube dropping onto, like, it's supposed to be steel, and it melts a little hole in it. Then it shows someone's hand, and it's dropping a couple drops on, puts a hole in your hand as well. That means corrosive. So for corrosives, it's damage to metals as well as skin and eyes. So anything chemical that's putting a hole in metal will definitely put a hole in your skin as well. This is another one you see on aerosol cans a lot. Okay, it says exploding bomb. It's for explosion or reactivity hazards. So you see these a lot on aerosol cans that they could actually explode if you bring a flame close to it. And there's a few more. So the top one's called skull and crossbone. So it makes sense. There's a skull and there's some bones in the shape of a cross. Can cause death or toxicity with short exposure to small amounts. So very, very poisonous. Stay away. This one was a new one. Okay, this one was a new one. It's like a person's body and almost looks like a star, or it's like the heart pumping the blood out. It's a health hazard. May cause or suspected of causing serious health effects. Okay, so they're trying to show, like, a person's circulatory system, the heart's pumping blood around. Okay, so when it says suspected of, they don't necessarily have proof, but they're saying, we think this is quite dangerous to your health. The exclamation mark, looks exactly like an exclamation mark, may cause less serious health effects or damage the ozone layer. Okay, so it's not like this where if you get exposed a tiny bit, you're going to die, or this might cause long-term effects. Okay, it's less serious health effects, but still you have to be cautious. The next one, I don't know if you can see it or not. There's like a tree, and then looks like a little fish, and it's called environment. May cause damage to the aquatic environment. So there's like a little line supposed to be the water, and you have the little fish. Okay, so this one wasn't universally adapted worldwide. So all these symbols are actually worldwide. So if you decide, not this summer, but maybe next summer, to go to Portugal, you'll see this exact symbol on a label. Okay, you get like a Drano or something, you'll see this exact symbol. Okay, so Whmis was adopted worldwide, but not all the symbols were. Okay, this is the only one that's not necessarily adopted worldwide, but all the other ones, doesn't matter what country, even if you decide to go to Australia, you will see these identical symbols. This last one is the only one not in a red diamond. Okay, they still have a circle around it. It's biohazard infectious material for organisms or toxins that could cause disease in people or animals. Where I see this one a lot is sometimes you see at the doctor's office, they have this like yellow bin where if they give you a vaccine or take blood from you, they put the needles there because you don't want to contaminate that. That could, if the person's diseased and you get poked by that needle, you can actually get it as well. So I see that like in doctor's offices, they usually have this little yellow bin. If you see that, please be careful. Never put your hand in a bag that has this symbol in front of it. So far we talked about the pictograms, which are these little pictures, and the picture just kind of gives you instantly like, oh wow, this is really poisonous to me, I can't get near it. Even a little bit can cause a problem. So the pictograms are great. They just give you a lot of information really, really quick, but no details. So then if you look at the label of the product, it will look something like this label, and it'll tell you at the top, okay, what product it is. It'll give you the name. There'll definitely be the little pictures. And then there's some, words that, right off the bat, danger. Watch it. And then it says, if you could read for details, fatal if swallowed. Okay, causes skin irritation. So they'll be in bold, like a big letter telling you right off the bat, okay, this is bad. And then some more details. Then it tells you precautions, okay, how to handle the product, okay, wear protective gloves. Other things like do not eat or drink or smoke, or, okay, for instance, this is just an example of one. And I know you're thinking, okay, who would eat it? But little kids will. So a lot of times poison control is called, or kids are rushed to the hospital when they're 3 because they find just those little Tide Pods, for instance, or those little laundry pods. It's like bright, colorful, looks like candy. They eat it, and it's actually quite dangerous. So please be aware, like when you're babysitting, I know you're not going to grab a bottle of Drano and drink it, but you never know, a 2-year-old might put it to its mouth and then run into trouble. On the label is super important, okay? It tells you the instant first aid, okay? And that's your first go-to. If, let's say, you're babysitting and a small child drinks something, take the bottle, read the label. Call poison control, call 911, but read the label. Because the first thing they're going to say is, do you have the label? Do you have the bottle? Because how you deal with it will depend on what they ingested. I know, for instance, from my first aid courses, they said when it burn going down, you might not want to induce vomiting because it'll burn their whole trachea coming back up. Okay, so it's very important on what the label says for that product. Sometimes it says induce vomiting right away. Sometimes it does not. It says drink milk or drink water. So what you need to do is read the label. Whatever the label says to do, you do that. Don't just base it on, oh, I think I should make them throw up. Do what the label says. Okay, and then at the bottom, it's like the supplier identification, like who created this, for more information. So we have these little pictures. You have a label on the bottle. And then there's another thing. Okay, it's called safety data sheets. And I like to put on your first test, what does SDS stand for? Well, SDS stands for safety data sheets. So in your place of work or even at the school, I'll show you once we get there, we have these big yellow binders like this. They look exactly like this, but they're yellow. And it has big letters SDS. And what it is, it's similar to the label, but you can only fit so much on a tiny little bottle. It's a full page, and it's got all the details about that product. So it's a summary of exactly what's in the product, exactly what to do, not condensed down. Okay, so it's a lot more information. So safety data sheets are summary documents that provide information about the hazards of a product and advice about safety precautions. Safety data sheets are usually written by the manufacturer or supplier of that product. So what they do is they provide more detailed hazard information about the product than the label. So it's just more detail. They are an important resource for workplaces and workers to help you learn more about the product used. And in 23 years of teaching, I've actually only had to go to this once, and because the student got a chemical in their eyes, and instantly, if you get anything in your eyes, you go to the eye wash. So I had them in the eye wash, we're flushing out their eyes, quickly ran, got this binder, looked up the chemical, and just to read, all right, what are my next steps? Like, should they be going to the hospital? Should they be, how long should they be in the eye wash? Should they go to call the parent? Should they go to the hospital? So every workplace needs to have this. The school has this. You might not necessarily have this at home. So if you're at home, another source for this is online. If you type in the name of the product, you will get this information out. So the internet is another source to obtain information about the product. All right. So not so much about school, but all of us will have part-time jobs at some point. So there's different parts to Whmis. So the employer, your boss, and I know you're not employed by me, but your teacher, okay, I need to provide proper training and proper PPE. So whenever we do a lab, you need to have goggles on. I have washed all the goggles with hot soapy water. No one's actually touched them since your class last year. They've been sitting in my room because I taught physics the first whole semester. So they've been sitting for a whole year. They've all been washed in hot soapy water. I dried them. I put them all in envelopes. And no one else will be using them. You'll be using the same pair. Now, if you like to use your own set of safety goggles, you're more than welcome to. You don't have to use mine. You can bring your safety goggles from home. I used to always do that when I was in high school and university. I didn't use the school provided ones. I used my own from home. So you're more than welcome to do that. Okay, but rest assured, I've cleaned them all, and they're all in an envelope, and they're all sealed. So your employer has to provide training, has to provide the proper PPE. Okay, yes, also ensure proper handling, usage, storage, and disposal of all the chemicals. Proper labeling, and that's important. You can't just have random bottles and it's like, oh, we always use this to clean, but it's a blank bottle. You need to know what's in that bottle. They have to let you know where the SDS sheets are, the safety data sheets, and implement control measures. Okay, so that could be as much as if you have to transfer this chemical to here, well, how is that done properly and safely? Now, even your employers have supervisors, and they're ensuring that your training is complete. They ensure workers understand Whmis related information, ensure PPP is worn. Okay, now we have a new thing with the PPE is everyone's wearing masks at all times. That's a new COVID thing. So as a worker or a student, okay, you have to participate in Whmis. You can't skip it. It's a yearly thing. You have to do it every year. Participation is mandatory. Annual safety trainings. So it's annually. Every year you have to do it. You have to identify and report any workplace hazards. So if you see a problem, it is actually your responsibility to tell somebody, and you tell your supervisor, your employer. Okay, and also the PPE is provided for you to use. So you can't just say, oh, no one's around, I'm not going to put on the safety goggles. You have to use it. Perfect example is my own dad. He was a mechanic. He never wore the safety goggles. And I can't tell you how many times he got a piece of metal in his eye, had to go to the hospital, and they had to scrape his eye. And it happened several times. You think he would learn and start wearing the goggles? Okay, now his vision is hurting from it. Like, he's lost some of his vision as a result. So even if people aren't around, you need to wear the proper PPE. It's there to help you. All right, and the last thing we have to do for safety is responsibilities of students. So we just have to read through this. This is work in a manner that you and other individuals are not placed in a dangerous situation. Okay, and that's important for school, like in the tech labs and the science lab. That's important in your part-time jobs. Okay, so you want to keep everyone safe. Okay, know and follow the safety rules at all times, and that's important. So again, I gave the example that let's say you're all alone, think, oh, I'm not going to bother putting the safety goggles on. Put the safety goggles on if that was something you need to do. You need to use it regardless of who's around. Prepare completely before starting any activity. Be aware of what you're going to do. That's what that means, okay? Know that what you're going to do, what you're using, how am I going to keep safe? Don't be halfway through going, oh, should I have like rubber boots on or should I have an apron on? Okay, know what you're going to do ahead of time. Wear the recommended safety equipment for each experiment or activity. And finally, report all safety incidents to the instructor, no matter how minor. Okay, so if anything happens, no matter how small, you need to tell me. Okay, you absolutely need to tell me. So let's say you get a drop of something and your finger's burning, let me know. Okay, that's really important. Even if you think it's something small, it might not be.